The rain hit Greenridge Penitentiary like a drumbeat from hell itself. Each drop a cold slap against Marcus Kane's face as he crouched in his cell, muscles coiled, mind razor-sharp despite exhaustion. Months had passed since the night his life had been torn apart. Framed for a crime he didn't commit, betrayed by a corrupt system, he had been sent here to break him, physically, mentally, and emotionally. The guards called him prison trash. They laughed as they beat him, jeered as they left him alone in the darkness for days at a time. But Marcus had something they didn't understand. He had fire. The memory of Elise haunted him. Her soft laugh, the warmth of her hand in his, the life they had built together. All stolen from him by Victor, the Serpent Delgado, a drug lord whose name alone made men tremble. Marcus had been too late to save her, too late to stop the betrayal. Every night, in the cold darkness of his cell, he relived that moment when the world had ended for him. The knock on the door, the officer's grim face, the news he could barely breathe through. Elise was gone, and he had been left to rot. On a particularly stormy night, after another day of relentless torture, his back bruised, his wrists raw from shackles, Marcus saw something impossible. A faint golden glow fluttered near the bars of his cell. A butterfly, delicate yet otherworldly, hovered in the air before landing gently on the concrete floor. He froze. It was Elise, or at least it felt like her, a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the depths of despair, he was not truly alone. Tears burned his eyes as he whispered, "Elise, is that you?" The butterfly stayed just long enough for him to feel its warmth in a way words couldn't describe before disappearing into the shadows. Something inside Marcus shifted. Pain and suffering were no longer enough to break him. They became fuel. From that night onward, Marcus began a regime that would have crushed an ordinary man. Every morning, he ran laps in his cell, fists scraping against the rough concrete, lungs screaming for air, body pushed to its limits. He fashioned weights from stones and broken pipes, punching, kicking, and grappling with the air as though every guard and every corrupt warden were there in front of him. He trained relentlessly, but he also observed. Every guard had a pattern, every prisoner a weakness. He memorized the prison's layout down to the last corridor. He spoke little, watched much. Slowly, fear began to replace mockery. Prisoners who had once jeered at him began to avoid his gaze. Guards who had tormented him now approached cautiously. Marcus Kane was no longer a victim. He was a storm waiting to strike. Weeks passed. One night, the opportunity came. During the prison's chaotic dinner hour, Marcus struck. A guard approached his table, baton raised, mocking him. With lightning reflexes, Marcus seized the guard's arm, twisted it with bone-crunching force, and slammed him into the wall. The officer's weapon skittered across the floor. The sound of breaking metal and panicked screams was the signal. Marcus moved through the hallways like a shadow, striking with precision and brutality. He unlocked nearby cells, freeing men who owed him respect, who had begun to see him as a leader, or at least a force to be reckoned with. Fires were set in strategic locations: kitchens, storage rooms, corridors. Smoke swirled in thick clouds, alarms blaring, sprinklers failing to quell the chaos. Gunshots erupted as the panic spread. Guards fired blindly into the smoke. Prisoners screamed and scattered. Amidst it all, Marcus moved with a terrifying calm, disarming and neutralizing anyone who dared to challenge him. The massive gates, normally a symbol of Greenridge's unyielding control, were thrown open. Freedom was within reach. Outside, in the torrential rain, David Reyes waited. Marcus's childhood friend and former army comrade. They hadn't seen each other in years, but there was no need for words. In the battlefield of their youth, silence had been a language of trust. Now it was their weapon. "Let's finish this," Marcus muttered, gripping his rifle. David nodded, scanning the perimeter with practiced precision. The city beyond was dark and wet, lights reflecting in puddles, but Marcus didn't see it. His eyes were on the horizon, on Victor Delgado, and the promise of vengeance. Every bruise, every night of suffering, every ounce of pain had prepared him for this. As they disappeared into the shadows of the city streets, the prison behind them was still ablaze, a beacon of Marcus Kane's fury and a warning to all who thought him weak. Rain pounded down, soaking their clothes, cooling the heat of adrenaline coursing through their veins, but not their resolve. Marcus felt the presence of the butterfly again, just for a moment, a fleeting shimmer in the darkness. Elise's spirit watching, guiding, urging him forward. The war was far from over. Victor Delgado's empire was vast, his men armed and ruthless, but Marcus was no longer the man who had entered Greenridge. He was a weapon forged in pain, sharpened by suffering, and fueled by vengeance. The storm ahead would be brutal, the battles bloody, the price unimaginable. But Marcus Kane was ready. He had walked through hell, and hell would tremble beneath him.